So about a month ago, I made a video redrafting the NBA lottery from 2021. And to be fair, I kind of enjoyed that video. It allowed me to go back and look at how everyone performed that last season in their rookie year. It allowed me to kind of rank where I thought everyone was after one season in the NBA. And now Sully isn't here once again, unfortunately. I thought I'd try and do it again, but maybe do it a little bit differently. Now, in 2012, 10 years ago, the NBA draft was held in Newark, New Jersey. And in that draft, we saw the likes of Anthony Davis, Damian Lillard go really high in the draft, but then also some high level, all star level players kind of went under the radar. Players like Chris Middleton, Draymond Green, and Jay Crowder's not an all star, but whoever does stuff like this never does them in twos, do they? So today I've decided to revisit the video I did about a month ago here on Beyond the Arc, as I'm on my own once again. I'm going to be going through the NBA draft lottery in 2012 and redrafting them based on how I think they've done now. Now, the reason I'm doing this is because these guys, if they've played every single season since their rookie year, will have just completed a decade in the NBA. So, what better way to look back on their last 10 years than rank them with everyone else in their draft class? So, before we get into it, make sure you're liking and subscribing to the YouTube channel. Make sure you're following all of our socials. They're all down in the description. Make sure you are sharing it out no matter what you're listening on any other podcast platform. Make sure you're giving it a rating, sharing it out, doing all that good stuff. It really helps us out. And yeah, without further ado, I think we should get straight into redrafting the 2012 draft lottery. At number 1, we saw Anthony Davis get drafted to the New Orleans Hornets, back when they were branded the Hornets. Man, 10 years ago, lots of things can happen. I was a meager 8 years old, so anything can happen in the NBA. We've had teams relocating, teams rebranding, and the New Orleans Hornets drafted Anthony Davis at number 1. And well, I'm drafting Anthony Davis at number 1 too. If I was just looking back right now, if I had to redraft every single player from the 2012 draft, Anthony Davis is who I picked number 1. It is a real toss-up between him and Damian Lillard. And Anthony Davis didn't really have the best rookie year for the Hornets. He only averaged around like 13.5 points per game. He was in the all-rookie first team, but ultimately he didn't win Rookie of the Year, and that went to Damian Lillard. But I mean, that's really all Damian Lillard has over Anthony Davis, in my opinion. AD, he's an 8-time All-Star, so other than last season and his rookie season, he's been an All-Star in every single season he's been in the league. He got that All-Star Game MVP with that 50-piece a few years ago, and more importantly, he is an NBA champion with the Los Angeles Lakers. He's one of the big pieces. He's one of the main reasons why LA obviously didn't do well last year, but AD was injured for a lot of the year. Maybe that was why. So yeah, I feel AD, he's a presence, and no matter what team he's played on, I feel he's had a really good 10 years in the NBA, and he's well deserving of the ring, which kind of puts him ahead of Damian Lillard, in my opinion, who I've gone with at the number 2 pick. Damian Lillard wasn't actually drafted number 2, no. Michael KiddGilchrist was. We'll talk a little bit more about Michael KiddGilchrist later in the video. Man, he had a bit of a torrid time despite going number 2. Damian Lillard, man, he won Rookie of the Year in that first year. He averaged 19 points per game, and that kind of just showed that this guy is a pure scorer. He's created memorable moments literally everywhere he's been. Obviously, I say everywhere he's been a one-club man so far. Lots of people saying he should have jumped ship, but you can rate his loyalty by being a part of the Portland Trail Blazers for as long as he has been. And well, he's a 6-time All-Star. He's won scoring titles. Well, he's been close to winning scoring titles. He's made deep playoff runs, but obviously he hasn't actually won anything in particular. The NBA think he's in the top 75 players that they did at the start of last season. But other than that, he hasn't really won any accolades by himself other than that Rookie of the Year. So, in my opinion, yes, he's very, very good, but I'm putting him number 2 instead of Anthony Davis. Number 3. Could this be a bit controversial? Bradley Beal initially went number 3 in the 2012 NBA draft. I am going to say that Bradley Beal doesn't go top 3 in my opinion, because whilst Bradley Beal is a pure scorer, the guy who I'm putting there contributes way more to his team than Bradley does, in my opinion. I'm going with the man who was drafted 35th in the 2012 NBA draft, 5th pick of the second round, Draymond Green. It's crazy that Draymond's been in the league for 10 years, but Draymond is a proven winner that we've seen throughout the years. 4-time NBA champion, and as me and Sully have said in the past, if injuries don't happen, maybe you could say like 7 or 8 chips. And in 10 years he's been in the league, that's mentally he's one of the main parts of the Golden State team dynasty, a 4-time All-Star. And yeah, I feel like he is way more valuable to a team than Bradley Beal is. I don't know, I'll put my hands up maybe. That might be a hot take, but I personally feel like Draymond Green really is that guy. Do I think he deserves a max extension at the age of 32? No, I don't, unfortunately, for Draymond. I think if he can maybe accept a bit of a lower money thing, maybe over a short amount of time, then they should do it. But yeah, man, I'd say Wiggins and Poole's contracts at the end of next season, they're way more important to get tied down than Draymond Green. Yes, he makes that team tick. Yes, I think he's the third best player in this 2012 draft, but I don't think he's worth the max at this point in his career. Let me know what you guys think about that in the comments. I mean, I don't know. I think a few people are a bit torn on it, so it'd be great to see what you guys think about that in the comments. The number 4 pick in the 2012 draft was Dion Waiters. Now that's a name. That's a name. But I mean, I don't think Dion is a top 4 pick. He ended up in that all rookie first team for his rookie year. So maybe he had a decent rookie year, but I don't think his career has been as good as Bradley Beal's, which is who I've put number 4. Bradley Beal doesn't drop too far. He does go down just one. You can't ignore the fact that yes, he hasn't really won anything. Yes, he has only really been an all-star a few times in his career, about 3 times I think. But so yeah, I mean you can't really ignore that he is one of the better players in this draft class. So I feel like Bradley Beal does deserve a place in the top 4, not in the top 3 though. He's been in the playoffs 5 times as well, which I mean, over the 10 years, I thought was a little bit shocking. I thought he'd been in it a lot less. You know, the Washington Wizards team haven't done that well, and that's mainly because Bradley Beal has been their only player, really, who is good enough to be in that all-star level in his position. So he has been in the playoffs 5 times. With Porzingis on his side, maybe they could make it 6 for the Wizards in 11 years for Beal, which I don't think that's that bad. That's more times he's been in the playoffs than not in his career, and I think that, yeah, I mean, you can't knock that. So yeah, Bradley Beal, top 4, one of the most paid players in the NBA right now. So yeah, big ups to Bradley Beal for securing the bag, but I think just what the guys above him have won in terms of Anthony Davis and Draymond Green, they've won chips. Damian Lillard is Damian Lillard. So yeah, I feel Bradley Beal at number 4. Number 5, Thomas Robinson was drafted number 5, and like I said, I was 8 years old when this draft happened. So I was looking at the draft. I was doing my research before today's video, and I looked and I saw Thomas Robinson at number 5, and I was thinking, who's Thomas Robinson? Why has he not been a staple in some of these teams right now over the last 10 years? I mean, even Dion Waiters, he might not be that franchise player, but the guy's an NBA champion. He was a part of a decent OKC team, part of a decent Miami team. So what is this Thomas Robinson? And then I saw that Sacramento drafted him, and you're pretty much doomed from the start if you're drafted by Sacramento because they do not know how to deal with young talent. Thomas Robinson was drafted number 5 and was traded partway through the season to Houston. He averaged 4.8 points per game for the Kings in his rookie year, and that kind of just was a staple for his whole NBA career, unfortunately for him. So yeah, Thomas Robinson, I mean, you might be watching this. I'm assuming you're not, but I'm sorry that I didn't know who you were. But after a bit of research, I apologize that Sacramento were the team that drafted you. You never know, if someone else drafted him, he might have actually turned out to be a good player. But Thomas Robinson, he ain't going to be in my lottery. He's the first person that we've covered that ain't going to be in my lottery. Instead, another second round pick, Chris Middleton, drafted 39th, the 9th pick of the second round. Chris Middleton, drafted by Detroit, was sent to Milwaukee the next season, and he's flourished there, really, hasn't he? He's been a 3-time All-Star, that NBA championship as well. I mean, you can't knock it. This guy is one of the biggest pieces in one of the best teams in the NBA. I mean, I didn't think he was a 3-time All-Star. I thought it was only about a 1 or a 2-time All-Star. So that just shows that he has been gradually hitting them All-Star level numbers in at least the last 3 seasons, but probably a little bit before then too. So yeah, I mean, Milwaukee, he's been one of the main reasons why they won a chip. He's starting to grow with them a lot, and yeah, I mean, he's one of the few second rounders who's been a big piece in an NBA title winning team. I mean, I was a bit surprised at all of the second rounders that I brought in from the 2021 draft into my draft lottery about a month ago when I did that video. But 2 players from the second round coming into my first 5 picks. It's crazy. It's crazy. Chris Middleton, big ups to you, man. You've had a great career, a great decade in the NBA. I think you could carry on going for another 5 years at All-Star level as well. Damian Lillard was initially drafted number 6 by the Portland Trailblazers. I've obviously talked about him, so he isn't going to be number 6. Instead, I'm bringing up the person who was drafted number 9, and that is Andre Drummond. Now, you see what I've done here? The top 6 of my redrafted lottery are the 6 players who have been all-stars in the NBA. Andre Drummond, I feel, is probably the worst out of the 6, but I feel like that's not really his fault. I feel like he's got a bad rack at the moment because of how he's just been bounced around teams recently. But he was drafted by Detroit, and look, he had good seasons there. He won the rebound titles 4 times as a Detroit Piston. He was an All-Star there twice. I mean, Detroit have been in rebuild mode ever since he left, so he was the staple for that Detroit team. Obviously, Detroit, I think they're going to be decent next season with Cade in his second year. So maybe Detroit have been very good at building around one player that they've drafted in the lottery, and now they might be doing it again. So Andre Drummond, obviously, since he got traded from the Pistons, he's been flying around the league pretty much. Cleveland, Brooklyn, Philly, LA, and now Chicago. I mean, being known as a journeyman, should he be top 6? I still think so. I think he does have a lot to prove. He's one of the best defenders in the league, and I'm over this whole your center has to be good at shooting threes or spacing the floor kind of thing. I feel like Drummond still has value in the NBA, and I think the Bulls having him in there as a defensive anchor for their second option and someone who can maybe come in and play center with Vooch moving to the power forward position, I think that's something that the Bulls should explore because Drummond, he is one of the best defenders in the league. And yeah, I feel he does warrant a top 6 pick in the draft. Number 7, Harrison Barnes, drafted number 7 by the Golden State Warriors. I think a lot of people forget that he was part of the Golden State Warriors. He ended up winning a chip with the Warriors, the first chip of the 4 that they've won in the last 8 years. Harrison Barnes was the small forward in that team. He did get traded the season after, or he left in free agency. But yeah, he was drafted number 7, and he's the second person in my draft lottery that I'm just keeping the same. I think Harrison Barnes is solid. I do like his game. When he was drafted to Dallas, he ended up averaging just shy of 20 points per game that first season in Dallas. And, well, I mean, he's been around there. He's been in Sacramento now, where he plays today. I mean, playing 10 seasons in the NBA and getting a chip, that's, he's set for life pretty much. But playing for Sacramento now, he's probably not going to be seeing the playoffs for the rest of his career if he stays there. But I think being a decent vet, averaging around about 15 points per game for this young Sacramento team, I think he's a good complementary pick besides next to Sabonis and Fox. So yeah, I feel he is worthy of retaining that number 7 pick in the 2012 redraft. Number 8 was Terrence Ross. Terrence Ross, I will talk about a little bit later on in the video. This is where the number 4 pick, Dion Waiters, slots in for me. Dion Waiters at the Cleveland Cavaliers, like I said, the first season he ended up finishing all rookie first team at the Cavs. Ever since, he's been around the Thunder, the Miami Heat, and then most recently the Lakers. So he's been around the playoffs for pretty much the whole of his career. He finally got that chip playing for the Lakers in that bubble season in 2020, and he's averaged 13.1 points per game over the 8 seasons he's been in the NBA. He hasn't played since 2020. I'm not sure if he's going to be coming back. I mean, he has had a lot of issues with like doping charges and stuff like that over his career, so it would be a shame if that's how his career ends. But in the end, he has had a good season, and I think he maybe doesn't warrant a top 4 pick, but I've put him 8th here. I think that's about right. At number 9 was Andre Drummond. That's when Andre Drummond was drafted initially. I've put another second rounder in my lottery here. Jay Crowder was drafted 34th by the Cleveland Cavaliers. And whilst he may not have put up the kind of stats that other players in his draft class have put up, I think Jay Crowder is one of the best role players in that entire draft class. He's been on the likes of the Celtics, the Jazz, and the Suns now. And in the last, well, he's obviously been in the league 10 years. He's been in 9 playoff runs. And I feel that's one of the main things that I was kind of like looking at in terms of how should I rank these later, like these middle/later picks. Not like in the case of are there all-stars, because all the all-stars that were in the 2012 draft have already been mentioned near the top. Have they won chips? How big a role did they play on these chips? But the main thing I was talking about when I was making this video, when I was planning it, was how many playoff runs they've had and how integral a part were they to such a playoff run. Now, obviously, like I said, Jay Crowder's been in 9 playoff runs in 10 seasons with the likes of the Celtics, the Jazz, and now the Suns. And yes, he might have lost all 3 of them, so the guy is not in the best look, unfortunately, but he has been one of the integral role players in such runs. You know, he's a very good 3-point shooter, spot 3-point shooter. That's kind of declined a little bit last season, but hopefully the Suns will be thinking they can get it back next season. And if they do, I always think that the Suns, as long as they have Devin Booker on that team, there is a window of hope, especially given that they've retained DeAndre Ayton too. So I think this season might be the season that they have to win the chip this year. So hopefully they can do it for Chris Paul, and maybe Jay Crowder will be one of the integral role players on there. Maybe he will head up to the playoffs for the 10th time in his career, and maybe he will finally win a chip after 4 times in the NBA Finals. At number 10 was Austin Rivers, drafted at number 10. I'm going to talk a bit about Rivers a little bit later in the video. Instead, Evan Fournier is coming in at number 10. He was drafted by number 20, so I've kind of just halved his draft number and put him at number 10. Like I was saying with Jay Crowder might not have put up the stats, like numbers-wise, that other people have. And I feel like Evan Fournier, if you want to put Evan Fournier a little bit further up in the pecking order in the draft lottery, I'm not going to blame you. I feel like he is one of the better shooters, probably when I'm thinking about it, one of the third, like probably top 3 shooters in this entire draft class. But I just feel like he hasn't really been in postseason runs, in my opinion. And obviously, that's due to the fact that he played in Orlando. Orlando, even when they had Vooch, he was probably the second piece in that operation. Vooch, Gordon, and Fournier. But they were always like an 8th seed, and they'd always get knocked out in like 4 or 5 games. So I feel like Fournier he hasn't really done it in the big stages, in my opinion. Even when he went to Boston, obviously he got traded to the Celtics midway through, not last season before, and he didn't really show through at Boston. They didn't extend his contract or anything like that. And now he plays for New York, and he's kind of robbing a living off of them as well, not really shooting that well. Unless he's playing against the Boston Celtics, that is. He only really drops good numbers against his former team, apparently. So, I mean, sucks to be a Boston fan. But yeah, Evan Fournier, I feel, is another player who wasn't part of the lottery. I've slotted him at number 10 here, but obviously, with the numbers that he's got over his career, high teens in points per game. If you guys want to put him a little bit further up, I understand that. Just for me, he hasn't done it in the playoffs as much as other people have. So therefore, Evan Fournier, number 10. It's still a lottery pick, in my opinion. So I think Evan Fournier, number 10, be happy with. Number 11, Meyers Leonard. And that's a name that you guys probably haven't heard in a good few years. Leonard was a very good role player, and I'm not going to lie, he was kind of almost in the lottery, in my opinion. He was a great role playing center, playing for playoff teams such as Portland and Miami throughout his 8 or so years in the NBA. At the start of 2021 season, he did unfortunately suffer a shoulder injury that pretty much kept him out for the whole of the 2021 season. But that was the last time he played, because ever since then he was suspended by the NBA for saying anti-Semitic slurs on his Twitch stream. So yeah, that's one way to ruin your career, really, isn't it, pal? So yeah, he hasn't played since then. I don't think he will play again. But while he was in the NBA, decent role-playing center. Didn't average many points, but obviously was the backup center in many playoff runs. Instead, I'm going to put Terrence Ross there. Obviously, we mentioned Terrence Ross was the 8th pick. He was drafted by the Raptors. He played 4 full seasons there before being traded to Orlando. So, yeah, obviously that means no more playoff runs for you, Mr. Ross. I think he's a he's a good vet on that young team. He's averaged double-digit points off of the bench consistently for Orlando. He's a human highlight reel. You always know that once a season he's going to be hitting some mental dunk. Obviously, probably that's not going to happen as much now. He's a 10-year vet coming into his 11th season now. But yeah, I think he's exactly what Orlando need coming off the bench. Can provide you 10 plus points a night. Can always give some help to some of the younger guys that they've got on that team. Orlando, they ain't making the playoffs anytime soon. So Terrence Ross, if that's what you're all right with, you do that, man. But I feel like he hasn't lived up to the hype of an 8th pick, but I think 11th pick is perfectly fine in my opinion. Number 12 was Jeremy Lamb, and we'll talk about Jeremy Lamb a little bit later on, not too long, because obviously we've only got like 3 picks left now. Instead, Michael KiddGilchrist. Now, the man who was drafted number 2. I did say that we'd talk a little bit more about Michael KiddGilchrist later on in the video. I don't know if you guys were thinking it'd be this late on. I don't even know if you guys thought he'd be in my lottery. This is the 2nd overall pick, and the guy with the weirdest jump shot in NBA history. Literally, like that. Go look it up. Yeah, I don't do it justice. Michael KiddGilchrist played for the Charlotte Bobcats when they were the Charlotte Bobcats. Carried on for the Charlotte Hornets when they rebranded to there. He played all of his all but half of his 8 NBA seasons with the Charlotte Bobcats, Hobcats, the Charlotte teams. The Charlotte, I think Hobcats is better in my opinion. I'm gonna say Charlotte Hobcats. He played all but half of his 8 NBA seasons with Charlotte. He was a decent role player there, averaging 8.4 points per game over his career. It's really nothing special, though. He's a number 2 pick. Come on, man. He's got to be doing better. So I think number 12, maybe, but there's probably arguments that he could slip even further down and maybe even out of the lottery. But I do think that whilst there was a few dark horses in this draft lottery, not in this draft lottery, in this draft class, there was a few superstars already in the lottery, such as AD and Dame and Bradley Beal. I feel like a lot of the rest are very much just role players who have either faded away from the NBA, like KiddGilchrist, or are still in the NBA but are now a vet on a younger team that are not reaching the playoffs anytime soon. Anyway, so yeah. Michael KiddGilchrist, number 12, dropped 10 places. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. The penultimate pick in the NBA draft, pick number 13 in the lottery, was Kendall Marshall. And just like Thomas Robinson at number 5, I was like, who is this guy? This guy drafted by, I think it was the Suns. This guy, who is this guy? I didn't know who he was. Like I said, I was 8 when this draft happens. So I did some searching, and this guy only played 4 seasons in the NBA for 4 different teams. So you could tell that he had a lot of faith wherever he went. Obviously, he hasn't played since, if I do the maths, 2016. He hasn't played in the NBA since 2016-ish. He did average 8.8 points per game for the Lakers in the 13-14 season, though, so good on him, man. I mean, he got a chance to play with Kobe, so that's better than anything that I could ever do. It's better than anything most of the players on this draft class could do, so big ups to him. I mean, the Lakers did finish like last in the West that year, 27 wins, but a decent role player on that team, but that's probably the best he could ever do. And yeah, he's nowhere near a draft lottery pick in my opinion. Instead, Jeremy Lamb. So Jeremy Lamb, drafted initially number 12. I've moved him down to number 13 in my opinion. He was drafted by the Rockets, and he has bounced around some poor teams. And in the 10 years, he's only made the playoffs twice with Oklahoma City in 2014. So he was part of a decent team there. That's Russ, KD, Harden, that kind of stuff. And he played in the playoffs with Charlotte in 2016. But he does enter his 11th NBA season, averaging 10.1 points per game. So maybe you could put him 12th, where he was actually drafted, and KiddGilchrist could come one down. But I just think, I don't know, man, the second pick, if I don't put him anywhere near the lottery, I don't know what I'd do. So yeah, it don't feel right putting KiddGilchrist anywhere lower. So Jamie Lammy's kind of been done out because of that. But blame Michael KiddGilchrist. You played on the team with him, so blame him. And then finally, the final pick of the 2012 draft lottery was John Henson, who was drafted by the Bucks. And I mean, I feel a bit sorry for him. He was playing for the Bucks at a time where the Bucks obviously weren't that good. They were obviously building towards something a lot bigger, and he obviously wasn't a part of that. He was playing in pretty much the same position as Giannis as well, so you could pretty much get him gone. His best season with the Bucks though was as a season where he averaged 11.1 points per game in about 70 games. So I mean, it's decent. It's decent numbers. It's decent numbers. But ultimately, I feel he doesn't deserve to be in that draft lottery. He was traded to Cleveland in 2019-20 and then traded again to Detroit halfway through the season. He only played 40 seasons. He only played 40 games in that season. He hadn't played 40 seasons, no. He only played 40 games that season, 2019-20. Hasn't played again in the NBA since. So, I mean, he's had a decent season, but nothing too special. And yeah, I feel if I was to redraft him, he'd probably still be in the teens, but I don't think he's number 14. Instead, Austin Rivers. It was a toss-up between him and Myers Leonard, but Austin Rivers is still in the NBA, so that's kind of what I've based it off of. So Austin Rivers, he only just gets in. He was drafted by the New Orleans Hornets, and he's bounced around the league. He's played for 6 different teams throughout his 10-year career so far, which is crazy. I mean, you were thinking maybe when he was playing for the Doc Rivers Clippers teams, when he was being coached by his dad, he might actually find a way in somewhere. And obviously, they were the only 2 seasons where he's averaged over 10 points per game throughout his career. So obviously, he got a few more minutes because, I'm not saying because his dad was the coach, but he's always been a good backup point guard. And I guess the Clippers needed him a little bit more than any of the other teams he's been in. He's been a very good role player off the bench. And like Jay Crowder, he's been in a lot of playoff teams. He's featured in 7 playoff runs throughout his 10-year career. Yeah, I feel he's been in a lot of playoff runs, which is kind of what I based off this draft lottery for with all the role players. He hasn't put up all the numbers though, and he has also not managed to find a place where he can consistently play for throughout his career. I mean, some players obviously do thrive in a lot of different places, but I feel, your likes of Bradley Beal, Damian Lillard, they've been in the same place pretty much throughout the whole career, and it's obviously proven well for them. I feel like it's better to be playing for as little teams as possible, in my opinion. You're not bouncing around every season. So yeah, Austin Rivers, he does end up in my draft lottery though, but only squeaking in on that number 14 pick. And that concludes the redrafting of the 2012 NBA Draft Lottery. So make sure you guys are liking and subscribing on the video. Make sure you're commenting down below what other draft classes you want me to redraft. Obviously, I did 2021s. I've now done 2012s. What do you guys want to see from me next time I do a redrafting video? Let me know if you guys like these kind of episodic videos rather than the long podcasty episodes. Let me know in the comments. Let us know in our socials, our Instagram, our TikTok. Links are in the description. Make sure you're following them too. Make sure you like and subscribing onto the YouTube video. Make sure you're sharing it out no matter what you're listening on. And hopefully Sully will be back next week. So me and him will see you guys in the next video. Peace.